Hello, hello. Hi, gang. We'll talk about that in just a moment. By the way, new lighting in studio today. So I'm just kind of getting adjusted to it. I don't know if you'll notice any difference on television today, but be on the lookout for it. Playgun Lake, hello, Mackinac Island and Kalamazoo, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Lansing, Michiganders, the Playgun Lake Casino and Sportsbook app, all your favorite casino games that you can take on the go. I mean, that's the fun thing. As we wind down summer, I hate saying that, but if you're on the beach, if you're at the pool, wherever you might be, this is all you need to have in the palm of your hand, and you can play lots of fun stuff, odds and slots and bets and games, all in the palm of your hand. The Playgun Lakes Casino and Sportsbook app, the only one that I recommend in Michigan. New users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're not a winner in the first 24 hours for roulette and baccarat and Texas Hold'em and your favorite progressive slots. Casino bonus has to be wagered. Terms and conditions apply. See the website at playgunlake.com for details. It really is fun stuff in the palm of your hand. Have a little skin in the game as you're watching all the action. Got to be 21 and in Michigan. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline, 1-800-270-7117. So a story you've heard from me before, it's a Friday. The CNN show is all put together. I have done the POTUS week-long shows, 5 of them in the can. Everything went well, working out the details of our guests and so forth. And then all of a sudden, word comes that special counsel, that Attorney General Merrick Garland was going to have a presser midday, and lo and behold, he announces a special counsel being appointed relative to Hunter Biden. Do you know, stop and think about this, there are now three special counsels, whatever the plural form of, we've never had to worry about the plural form of special counsel before, but one for the president. We never talk about that, but there is a special counsel looking at Joe Biden's handling of classified information. Now a special counsel pertaining to Hunter, and of course, a special counsel, Jack Smith, who gets most of the attention relative to former President Trump. So 3 special counsel all in action now. I very quickly pivoted just to go back to planning a CNN program to talk about these events. And where I've already interviewed Joseph Ziegler, one of the IRS whistleblowers, we quickly invited Gary Shapley. Gary Shapley will be on my program today because I want to get his thoughts on what this all means. I have thoughts of my own. Does this confirm the testimony of Ziegler and Shapley, who said previously that they'd been told in this October 7 meeting? Oh my God, I'm already into the weeds. I know, it gets so damn complicated. Actually, let me keep it simple. The IRS whistleblowers say that they were thwarted, that the investigation into Hunter Biden was never allowed to go at its full and proper pace. Is that because the political forces shut it down? Is that because IRS and DOJ officials were nervous at rattling the cage? I don't know, but they say in a meeting, David Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, yes, Trump appointed, but nevertheless, David Weiss, who has been looking at Hunter for 5 years, holy crap, that he said he'd been denied special counsel status and that he wasn't permitted to pursue Hunter investigations in in Washington and in California. So the next chapter of this, there's a plea agreement struck. Many characterize it as a sweetheart deal. Would someone else have gotten the same deal as Hunter? And the response was some people actually would have gotten a better deal, a worse deal, yada, yada, yada. They go back and forth, back and forth. And then the plea agreement goes away because the federal judge presiding in that case questions the litigants about whether Hunter was being provided with a blanket immunity. And clearly the Hunter lawyers wanted him to be done and dusted. Thank you, Leanne Hainsby. Done and dusted of any potential future charges. And David Weiss and the Justice Department said, whoa, we're only cutting a deal relative to these specific tax charges and the gun charges. Holy shit, have all of your eyes already glazed over? let me approach it this way. I made a legal tablet, both for my benefit and for yours, talking about the legal and political ramifications of what has just transpired. On the legal side, theoretically, more power now goes to David Weiss, the U.S. attorney. Theoretically, he doesn't need anybody else's sign off now, and he can operate in any jurisdiction that he wants. It makes a trial more likely. I'll circle back to that on the political side of the ledger. It's harder to fire Weiss. Now you need cause to fire Weiss that you otherwise wouldn't have had when he's a U.S. attorney. As I say, the scope of whatever he looks at is going to be broader than Delaware. At the end, he has to write a report as a special counsel that he would not have had to do as a U.S. attorney. Now, I put this statement in both categories, legal and political. It would seem this investigation is going to go in different directions. What does that mean, Michael? Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, he doesn't need special counsel status if he's only looking at the charges for which he was seeking that plea agreement with Hunter. So if I'm Hunter, I'm thinking, I've got more exposure today than I had yesterday. I wish to hell that that plea agreement had gone through if I'm Hunter. If I'm Joe, I also need to be a little bit nervous as well, right? Because if it's not just limited to Hunter and the plea agreement, where else might this lead? Which takes me to the political side of the ledger. It's a distraction for Joe. Put aside whether the president of the United States has any exposure, any liability. It's a distraction. Hunter is the survivor among the kids of that horrific accident when Joe was first elected to the U.S. Senate. And he's got the president seems to have a particular bond for this son, which I totally get and I respect. And to see any family member jammed up, regardless of your station in life, you don't have to be president of the United States. Don't we as parents all know how distracting that can be? So on a human level that has to impact his political standing and focus, it's a major distraction. It's a major distraction because now, in the midst of the presidential campaign, blocks from the White House, there will be, it would seem, a Hunter trial. So Trump is not going to be the only one with court dates. Huge differences. I'm not asserting parity between Hunter Biden and Donald Trump, but both will have court dates. They will be distracting. They will get covered. There will continue to be questions about Joe as to his statements, which I delivered a commentary before I went away on vacation for CNN. There will continue to be questions about Joe having asserted that he never talked about his business, Hunter's business with him, which just doesn't pass the smell test. And that's what I said in my CNN commentary the day before I went away for a week of vacation. Those questions will be continued to raise. They'll continue to be raised. Okay, here's another political consideration, just going back to the old legal tablet. Trump's indictments, politically speaking, up until now, have helped him. I've got the polling data that supports it, but you see his standing in the polls. He is a thrice indicted former president. And next week, talk about when are the slow days of August? Not this week, not last week when I was away, not next week when Fani Willis indicts him. It's unbelievable. What's my point? My point is that the indictments thus far have helped Trump politically. I don't think that trials necessarily would, but the indictments certainly have. And the polling data says Republicans say, this is all political, and the more that they see him getting indicted, the more they feel obligated to rally to his side. That's not the same for Biden, right? There's not a political upside for Joe Biden, at least none that I see. Is there sympathy on the part of Democrats? I mean, you'll have to tell me in your comments. Is there sympathy on the part of Democrats who say, oh, this is unfair to Hunter, therefore I feel sympathy for Joe? I don't know. Trump gets a benefit, politically speaking, when he's indicted. He might not at trial. I don't see one for Biden. Two more observations. The whataboutism is now at an 11. The whataboutism is now at 11. So at a time when Trump is going to get tried at some point for how he handled the disclosure, financial records pertaining to Stormy Daniels, which I don't put any real stock on, but I feel obligated to mention, the obstruction relative to Mar-a-Lago, a really, I think, strong case against Trump. A strong case against Trump because they've got the names and the dates and the video and the texts. And then you've got the events of January 6th and, the conspiracy to defraud the government and the Trump role in trying to obfuscate the election returns, like some really serious stuff. And then we'll see what Fani Willis has cooking. But of course, in certain media outlets, it's none of that. And it's going to be, what about Hunter? Who's the big guy? How did Joe afford that house in Rehoboth Beach? Did he never talk to Hunter? And it's going to be like, what about? And this stuff is confusing. And I think it'll be a wash for many Americans. I really do. Like I'm sitting here today and I'm looking at the letters that were sent from David Weiss as U.S. attorney to the Congress, and I'm getting into the nitty gritty of what did he say in the June 7 letter versus the July 30 letter or whatever the hell it is. None of this is gonna resonate, the minutia of it, with voters. To them, concerned about the last few weeks of summer and the kids at camp and going back to school and paying bills, it's gonna be like, oh my God, they've all got legal problems. Can't we have some other choice? And finally, one other consideration, political consideration for what does it mean that there's now a special counsel pertaining to Hunter? It's that David Weiss is not going to offer any testimony of significance in the foreseeable future because he's totally protected. So if Jim Jordan and Comer and the others want to bring him into the Congress now, something they desperately want to do, he's just going to sit there and he's going to say it's an ongoing investigation. In the end, he'll have to write a report. Did I clarify or confuse? Clarify or confuse? I will, as usual today, be an equal opportunity offender on CNN. No one will be happy by the end of the program. Why do I say that? Because one of the IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley, is going to be my guest. That'll infuriate the Biden folks. And I shall do a lengthy commentary today saying that I perceive the DOJ rushing to get Donald Trump tried before Election Day, and I think that's improper. I think that Donald Trump should be afforded no, no courtesy, no privilege that wouldn't be afforded to any other defendant. Well, I'll say it more simply. Trump's trial should not be delayed because he's running for president. None of the Trump trials should be delayed because he's running for president, in my opinion. Nor should the pace be expedited because he's running for president. And the poll question today at Smerconish.com asks this: should the date of the presidential election factor into determining when the January 6th Trump case gets tried? Mine is a no vote. I suspect, as usual, I will be in the minority among those who vote. Hey, by the way, when you vote at Smerconish.com today, take a look at yesterday's poll result. I think the closest we've ever had. Thank you, gang. Going to go get my noggin powdered for this new lighting. And I will read all of your comments later, right? Okay, did I alienate everybody? Probably. Yeah. Okay, good. Just another day at the office if that's the case. Enjoy the remaining days of summer. And by the way, how about that newsletter? Now featuring the work of 3 different Pulitzer Prize cartoonists, illustrators. I am so loving it. You have to be a subscriber to the newsletter. I'm not going to give it away in all my social media anymore. I just wanted to wet your beak and give you a little show on that. Play Gun Lake Casino. Thank you, Michigan, you Michiganders. And listen to TC After Dark. Okay, give her some play. She just released a new episode as well. See ya.